morning, happy Monday to you. A Manhattan socialite has come under fire for putting her 7-year-old daughter on a strict Weight Watchers diet.
That's right, the mum revealed she has deprived her child of dinner on occasion and even bribes her with the promise of beautiful clothes if she keeps her weight down.
All right, this is one extreme example, but it does pose the question, should parents be allowed to manage their child's weight, and if so, how? Well, here to help us, Danny Miller, Amelia Burton and Ian Wallace. Danny, I'll start with you. What do you think about this story, about the mother-daughter story we just talked about, Dan? It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. I'm sure your intentions were honourable, or you'd hope that they were. And we do get so very focused on the idea that skinny equals healthy. It doesn't necessarily. What we need to focus on is health, not necessarily the number on a particular scale. And in this instance, by publicly shaming her daughter and bribing her with pretty frocks and talking publicly about her daughter's weight issues, she's really set her up for a very dangerous relationship with her body and a yo-yoing pattern with food. And we know that this kind of shaming behaviour just escalates things.
That's what it is, really, isn't it? It's public shaming.
Yeah.
Ian, how damaging is this kind of parenting on kids?
That type of parenting is really dangerous because there's a recipe how to get your kid into eating disorders. Start at that, say, I don't love you for who you are, I don't love you for what you are. My love is conditional on how you look, whether you make the right choices, whether you do the right things, all centred around food. And that's a massive problem. But I think it's actually two problems. There's that on one side, and then there's the parents that sabotage their kids on the other side and feed them junk food all the time and let them eat masses of food. And I don't like we group those two parents together. We've got to look at, here's the anal, over-anxious parents this way that won't let their kids eat. Here's the other ones that teach their kids emotional eating patterns and leads to obesity.
Well, let's talk about obesity. Amelia, you know, childhood obesity in America, London, here, is at an all-time high. How's that going to affect their health later on?
Absolutely. So 1/4 of children are overweight or obese, which is a scary statistic.
1/4?
1/4. But what's even more scary is that we know that 80% of overweight children become overweight adults. 80%. So that's a really scary stat. We also know that what's been happening recently because of modern science is that a lot more overweight mothers are able to fall pregnant due to, IVF, which is great on one side because they can fall pregnant. But we know the chances of a mother giving birth to a child who is going, when they're overweight, who will have weight problems in their life is greatly increased. So it's this scary cycle, and we know that a child that's born from an overweight mother not only physiologically is more inclined to become overweight, but also their palate sets them up so that they crave the fatty foods and their diet actually shifts. So it's a really scary cycle that we're in at the moment.
Well, so Ian, how do you manage the minefield without damaging your child's self-esteem? Because if we know that, 1/4 of children are overweight and that this could go on in their life and ultimately damage their health, as a parent, you've got to do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think first you've got to love your kids regardless for who they are rather than their size. Two, you've got to work with them rather than either group labels their kids, rather than saying, hey, let's work on this together, let's do some healthy lifestyle stuff together, let's go for a ride together, let's walk the dog together, or let's eat healthy together. Rather than using words like diet, it's something we're working at together and trying to succeed at together and raise their self-esteem about the other things they do outside of just body image, rather than just getting focused on that.
Danny, what about kids' parties and things like that? We often have them, a McDonald's or Burger King or whatnot. I mean, as soon as opposed to sometimes food, it's like, well, that's a special treat. So it makes it exciting, don't you think?
Yeah, look, first of all, I'd have to say that I don't know that I agree that 25% of young people are obese. It depends on the criteria you're using for that. And if you're looking at body mass index, then often someone who might even be an elite athlete, because of their body mass and their size, can be classified as obese. I know Ian and I have talked about the fact before that when he was actually playing rugby at a very elite level, based on that criteria, he was also obese. When I work with young girls in schools around Australia, I don't see 25% of the population being dangerously overweight. What I do see, and what the research clearly shows, is very strong body image dissatisfaction amongst young people. In fact, we know that in schools, 40% of young people will be dieting to an extreme level that puts them at risk of an eating disorder. We know that 16% of young people will do things like starve themselves, purge, use laxatives. So in terms of, what's treat food, yes, we do need to be very wary that we don't want to make those foods our staples, but let's not get hysterical. There's nothing worse than going to a child's party and seeing all carrot sticks and hummus. I mean, you can have some good choices in there amongst it.
I went to an adult's party and just saw carrot sticks and hummus.
It's just boring. And honestly, in my experience being a parent, if you make those sorts of food forbidden, then they just make them more tantalising and tempting.
Well, I think, to be honest, there's parents that sabotage. I see parents come in and say, I'm worried about my kid, he's being bullied, he's overweight, and they've just bought them hot chips at my office at 4 o'clock. Why are you doing that? Or they constantly celebrate with food, like, hey, you did well at school, let's go and get a milkshake.
Yeah.
Hey, you did great at sport, let's all go to somewhere for fast food today. And they set up that mindset that you
can't have
reward
double
behaviour with
standards.
food.
Yeah.
So, Amelia, how do we change this pattern?
There absolutely is an obesity epidemic, and you cannot deny that. And I understand that you might go around and look at schools and not see that, but we have the facts out there that as a nation we are getting fatter, and I don't think anyone can argue with that. So there are some really important things that you can do. So number one, which Ian just said, you must lead by example. So as a family together, you must eat the healthy foods. You must try to eliminate as much junk food or sometimes foods from the house. If you do have those foods in the house, then you put them out of reach and out of sight of the children. The only thing that should be on the bench should be a bowl of fruit. No clear containers with the chocolate biscuits or anything like that. Make sure activity is a huge part of your life as well. Never ever refer to food as being a fattening food, or never say we're going on a diet or something like that, because that's exactly as you say, will set them up for the rest of their lives with an eating disorder potentially. So really important things as a family together, as a lifestyle, is what we need to be looking at.
And
Great
don't
tips.
just value your child by their weight, the number on the scale. That's not their currency.
Exactly. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
guys. Some
guys.
really interesting information there. And it's time now for news headlines with Amelia Adams. Good morning, Amelia.